This is Shabbos Daf Yud Aleph. We were talking about Pinchas ben Yair. He was saying how one thing leads to another thing. Good things lead to good things. So he said that Yiras Chet Lidei Ruach Chodesh, that fear of sin leads to Ruach Chodesh. How do we know this? It says, Az Tavin Yiras Hashem B'das Elikim Timtza. And you understand the fear of Hashem and acknowledge Hashem, and then you will find Him. Ruach Chodesh Lidei Chasidus. Ruach Chodesh leads to piety. Then you will have spoken of the vision and to your pious ones. Chasidus lidei tchias hamesim, and piety leads to tchias hamesim, the revivification of the dead. The Chesed says, "V'nasatu ruach b'chem v'chiyesem." I'll place my spirit in you, and it will come to life. Now, Tchias HaMesim lidei Eliyahu Zachor LaToiv, and Tchias HaMesim leads Eliyahu Navi Zachor LaToiv. The Chesiv, it's written, Hine Anoichi Shalech Lachem Es Eliyahu Hanavi Lefnei Bai Yoim Hashem Hagadol V'Noira. Behold, I will send you Eliyahu, the Navi, before the coming of the great and awesome day of Hashem. There we go. V'hai Shev Lev Avois Al Banim V'Lev Banim Al Avoisam. And the famous passage that people quote, and he will reconcile the hearts of the fathers to the sons, and the sons unto the fathers. And that's how he learns out how one good thing leads to another good thing. And you could trade up all the way from Zerizis all the way up to Tchias HaMesim and meeting Eliyahu Hanavi. So today, b'shem Rabbi Meir, we're Bryce the name of Rabbi Meir. We're going to learn more things, more good chizik. Call me Shahu Kavua Eretz Yisrael. Anyone who has a permanent place in Eretz Yisrael, Vaycha Chulan B'Tahara, and eats Chulan foods in a state of Tahara, Medaber B'Lashon HaKodesh, and speaks in Lashon HaKodesh, V'Koira as Shema B'Boker B'Erev, and Shema in the evening and the morning, V'Tuchai Lu Shehu Mechaye Olam Haba. It is for sure that this person is going to get to Olam Haba. Now we're up to Halacha 4. And this one is going to be interesting because here we're talking about different enactments that were made. We are at a point in time where actually the followers of Shammai, the Beis Shammai, outnumbered the followers of Beis Hillel, and they were able to enact certain things. And those things are brought down in other Mishnayos, and they were able to enact them on a certain day. So Zakta Halacha, the Mishnah, Elu mehalachosai she'amru Bilial Hananya ben Chizkiah ben Gairin. These are the laws that they enacted in the upper chamber of Hananya ben Chizkiah ben Gairin. When they went up to go to visit him. This was a special day when they went to visit him. He stayed in his attic, and they went to visit him, and they were able to enact certain decrees. Nimnu, on this occasion, they were counted. Uravu Beis Shammai al Beis Hillel, and Beis Shammai outnumbered Beis Hillel. Ushmoina Asar Dvarim Gazru Boy Bayoim, and they enacted 18 measures on that day. Now we see in the Gemara that they actually enacted 36 measures, and they tried to enact 18 additional measures. But the 18 measures they first enacted, that did not seem to be much of machlokes. Then they enacted 18 measures based on the fact that they outnumbered Beis Hillel. And then there were 18 other measures where the Beis Shammai themselves couldn't come to a consensus, and therefore they did not enact them. We're going to see what the Gemara says about this. So Elu Ma'halachas, these are halachas. So the Gemara says something very strong. The Gemara says, Oisa Hayoim, that day, Hayakosha Yisrael, was as difficult for Bnei Yisrael, the history of Bnei Yisrael, Kiyoim Shenasa Boy Egel, the day in which they made the Egel. So some people learn the way they learn the Gemara is how the way they understand the incident of the Egel. You can understand the incident of the Egel the way you learn the Gemara. So the way I learned the Gemara is very similar to the way I learned the incident of the Egel. The Egel is not the golden calf. It was an Egel Masecha. It was a molten calf. What was the problem with that? Moshe Rabbeinu was gone 40 days. He left Hor and Aaron in charge. The problem was that the people did not agree to go to Aaron and Hor. They wanted Moshe. So when they saw that Moshe was late in coming, they started pointing fingers at each other. And they all said, we need a good bezdin. We need a good judge. We need an arbiter to figure out what we're going to do in our interpersonal problems. of course they kept saying that, what the problem is, anyone we go to is only going to go after money. And they kept saying the only reason why you're acting your way is because you're only after the money. I'm acting because I have Yerushalmi and I'm a good Jew and I'm here for the Torah. You're acting your way because of the money. So when the Torah says there that they make fun of each other's Elikim, it wasn't like they needed a new Elikim, a new God. They needed new judges. They said this is a corrupt system of judgment. This is not the way we are going to resolve it into personal disputes. The problem is everyone there was rich. And when everyone is there is rich, they all point to each other and say, I can be rich and I still can have Yerushalayim. You, although your richness is clouding your Shemayim. So then they made the golden calf. They said, let's take all our money. Let's take the gold. Let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of the excess. Let's put it all in one place. And with that, then we can actually see what's right without the money that's standing in between. So when they had the golden calf, they had the molten calf, the Egel Masecha. So then they pointed at it and said, look, that is your judge. Go ahead, go to your judge. Your judge is all gold. You only care about the money. Go to your, I'm waiting for Moshe Rabbeinu because I have Yerushalayim. You don't have Yerushalayim. And then they realized that this was a new turning the page for them, and they made a feast and a festival, and all of a sudden, what they tried to prove that the money was the point of corruption, they were proving that the money was actually pointing to them that they were right, and to their tzidkias, and they mixed up the tzidkias with the money, and everything got omish kebabel. That was really the molten calf episode. And that's really what happened here, because it says, it's a difficult day like that of the Egel. The day when Beis Shammai goes ahead and tries to enact things is not a terrible day. The problem is that Beis Shammai, they thought that they were right. And we're going to see in the Gemara that what happened was they used force to keep their numbers up so they can enact the decrees. Now, obviously, a person's going to be a kanoi for Torah, and a person really thinks that they are writing Torah. They have to stand up for themselves, and they have to put themselves out there. And they shouldn't just hide and say, well, no one really wants to listen to my Torah, and therefore I'm going to stay in my room. Go out to YouTube, put your shirim on YouTube, even if you get 0 views. You got to get out there. You got to put your stuff out there, because the bottom line is the Torah is meant to be spread. So you only can do your shtadlis. If you have Torah that you think has to be spread it some way. No one reads it. No one wants it. Everyone laughs at you. That's their problem, not your problem. You are only responsible to spread your Torah. So Beis Shammai was like this. We really hold on our convictions, and we have to make enactments in our convictions. So they can do that, and that was actually good kanais and good Yerushalayim. The problem is not to do with violence. They did it in the wrong way. Just like the people with the molten calf. They were right. The money was a problem. They had to go ahead, and they had to put the money away, and they had to show people that money is a problem. They were correct in that. That was the correct thing to do. However, once they had the molten calf, then they were incorrect. Then they did things, and they made a festival, and they reveled. That was the wrong thing to do in making it have a division. You want to show that you're right and that money's a problem? Do it in a way that creates achdus, not in a way that creates division. So just like the people in the Egel had the right intention, they had the right mindset, they knew exactly what they were supposed to do, but they ended up doing it the wrong way, so too, these enactments were done. Yes, they were done from the right perspective, right point of view, but if they're done with violence, that's the wrong point of view. That's how I learn this Gemara. That's how I learn the molten calf incident. Rabbi Lezer, I remember Rabbi Lezer says, "Boy, by Yomi that day, God shu es saw." They heaped up how big the measurement of the saw is. Rabbi Yeshua, I remember Yeshua says, "Boy, my Yomi they leveled it." So the question is, either they level it, meaning they made it smaller, or did they build it up so high that it was out of a measure, and then at the end you just, when things go out of a cup and you just want to knock off the top, and so you get exact measurement. That's what it was. In other words, they made the sauce so big that the container it was holding was so filled up and it was overflowing, they had to knock it down. So did they lower the saw, or did they build it up so much that it had to be leveled? Amalai Rebbe Lezer. Rebbe Lezer says to Yeshua, why, if the measure was lacking and they filled to the top, this is certainly commendable. It's like a barrel that's full of nuts. All those that put sesame seeds inside it, he machazekias. it will hold it because the sesame seeds are going to go into the little spaces. So they said the saw was basically a barrel full, but the barrel wasn't full because it was full of big nuts. You fill it with sesame seeds, and all of a sudden now every space is full. That's a full saw. So we got a full saw. It's commendable. Bishua said to him, Ilu Haisa Malaya the Chesura Yor, and why if the measure was full and they made it deficient by removing some of it, is this commendable? No, of course not. L'chavish Haisa Malaya Shaman, it's like a barrel, it's full of oil. And call mash also nice and you can put it in water. Who mefazeres is a shaman? It's going to go and the shaman's going to come out because the water's going to be in the bottom, and the water is going to start rising, and the shaman's going to start pouring out. Eventually, the barrel will not be full of oil; it'll be full of water. So, if you do things in a manner like too much, all of a sudden it's not going to be it's going to be worthless, basically. So you have to make sure things are proper. Okay, Tana Rabbi Yeshua in Yua. Rabbi Yeshua in Yua says in the Brisa, Talmidei Beis Shammai amdu lehen mulmata. The disciples of Beis Shammai stood below, and they were killing those who came from Beis Hill. So Tani, we learned Shisha Mehan Alu. 6 of the Talmidim wanted to ascend. V'hashar Amdu Aleihem Bechavros Uberchoramim, and the rest of Beis Shammai stood against them with swords and with spears. So basically, on threat of death, you cannot go up. So once Beis Shammai outnumbered Beis Hillel, then they guarded the place and they no longer allowed anyone else in on threat of death. And on threat of death, that's how they made their decrees. So again, good intentions. You want to get Torah out. You want to make sure that the enactments and Torah's emes, sure, good. Threat of death, maybe not the best way. Tani, we learned in a brisa. Shmoina Aser Davar Gazru. On that day, 18 decrees were measured. Measures were put out. Ushmoina Asrei Rabu, and regarding the 18 that Beis Shammai outnumbered Beis Hillel, they made another 18 decrees. But then another 18 they tried to, but they couldn't get consensus even among themselves. And these are the measures that they enacted, and that was unanimous, them and Beis Hillel. Al Pison Shal Gayim, regarding the bread of Gayim that you shouldn't eat without proper washing and hechsher, or you shouldn't mix it unless you, of course, you don't have pas Yisrael. Vial givoson, and also on their cheese, vial shmonan, and their oil. First of all, the cheese could definitely be non-kosher, but that's probably these days. Maybe those days they just made it out of pure milk is very possible. And they said on their cheese, make sure that you don't eat it. Vial b'neisehem, don't marry the daughters, even though it's a decree in the Torah, you're not allowed to marry a non-Jew. They made a decree not to mix with their daughters. Vial shikva zarai, and regarding their semen, mimei raglehem, or the urine, vial chosoi balkari, and regarding the balkari, vial hiluchos eretz hamamim, and regarding the laws pertaining to the land, their nations, and the Talmud and Tanina, we learned to the Mishnah, the other 10, Elu Paiskin as a Trumason, these are the renders, this Paisel as a Truma, this Paisel is Truma, Eichel Rishon, the one who eats it as a Rishon of Tumah. Sheni, and reads it as a Sheni Tumah, Vashaisa Mashkin Matamin, drinks liquids that are Tame, Vaba Roishai, Verubai, Mayim Shuvin, and a person who's Tame, and he puts his greater part of his head and body into drawn water, Vitar Shanafala Roisha Rubai, or a Tar person where the same water fell upon, Shoisha Lugin Mayim Shuvin, 3 lugin of water that's drawn, Vasefer. And regarding the Holy Scripture, the Hayidayim, and regarding Ilchas Dayim, when you're Sheni Vatzvol Yoim, and a person who goes to the mikveh up until that day, Tumin b'mashkin, and foods and utensils that are contracted tumah that are contracted tumah through liquids. Those are the 18 decrees. Rabbi the Carson Amru and the Kesaria rabbis said, Elu Shagazru, this is what they enacted, Masha Rabu Shvu Einun, in regards to when they outnumbered Beis Hillel, and 7 of them were already counted in the first group. So therefore, we're not sure if 7 of them were is an overlap, or it could be there were 7 others that we don't know, and 7 from the first group actually were enacted as by Shammai who aren't on Beis Hill, and then the 7 that were done in consensus, those we don't know. So that is not unclear in the Gemara. But anyway, they're going to say these 11. The Eila and Inon Chorinasya, and these are the others, Mishishkach Baderech. The ones, the person who's walking on the way, and all of a sudden it comes dark, and likes to kise Nachri, he's got to give a non-Jew his wallet to carry. Yetza by Hazav Imazava, and Hazav should not eat together. Mifnei Haregel Avera, because it could come to sin. Kol Hamatalkalim, all movable objects. They could come Tame, Mivi, and Tuma. They could cause Tuma. Hamardeya, and anything as thick as a pole. Ketzad, Boitrin, base Hapras. How does one harvest a base of pras? Kalim, Tachas, and Tzinar. If you keep vessels underneath a pipe and it's flowing with water, whether or not it can be considered mikvah. Shisha Svegais, Soifin, Esashruma. 6 to 11 are the doubtful Tuma, and one must burn the Truma if it gets touched. So Amr Rabbi Yosi Rabin Bon. Rabbi Yosi says in the name of Rabban, Af Yedule Truma. Also the way the Truma grows. This is what's been enacted by a majority of vote.